Rava says, Im ro'im et hamatre. You have it? Is that what we got up to yesterday? Right? Im ro'in et hamatre. If they were seeing the matre, if the witnesses saw the one giving the warning, or if the one who's giving the warning sees them. So you have two different cases. Case one, the witnesses don't see each other, but they see the matre. They see the one who's giving the warning. The fact that they see the one giving the warning, that in itself joins them together. So even though we said that witnesses cannot be independent of each other, but this is not, here we have a chidush, that you're not called independent if there's a connector. And what's the connector? The middleman. Who is this middleman? The warner. The one who's giving the warning. That connects them. Is that clear? So that's what Rava says. If they see the matre, or if the one who's giving the warning sees them. So let's say Nathan's here, Mr. Safdie's there. I'm the one giving the warning. I see you. I see him, but you guys don't see each other. Okay? You didn't see each other. You did not see. You didn't see the other guy. You didn't see Nathan when this happened. When you saw this happen, the court will go over to Mr. Safdie. Did you see Nathan? I didn't see him, but I saw you. I was giving the warning, and I saw you. So the fact that I who gave the warning sees both of you, that joins you together, and you can come into court to testify as two witnesses, because there was a connector. Nathan, is that clear? That connects you. So that's a chidush. Okay. Now, Amar Rava. Rava says, Masris she'amru, the matre she'amru, afilu mipi atzmo. Rava is of the opinion, you yourself, the victim himself, good morning, Mr. Cohen, the victim himself could go ahead and give the warning. That means if the witnesses say, we heard the victim warning the guy, telling the guy, if you go ahead and you do this, if you do this thing, you're going to get, you're going to get the capital punishment for doing this. That in itself, that would be enough of a warning. Good morning, Dr. Navid.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, so the Gemara says, "Vafilu mipi hashed." Even mipi hashed. What does the pi hashed mean? Pi hashed means any source. If we look at the Rambam, how the Rambam translated pi hashed. Any source, I mean, let's say a woman would give the warning, a child would give the warning. People who are not generally kosher witnesses, right? They're not kosher witnesses. But if they gave the warning, that would be good enough. If we look at the Rambam is in Perikut Beis, Mehilchos Sanhedrin. The Rambam says, I'll read you the Rambam. Halacha Beis. The Rambam says, whether even a woman or a servant, a slave, an Evakanani, gives the warning, even if that would be enough. Anybody, any source, anyone that gives the warning would be considered a warning. As long as the witnesses heard there was a warning that was given, that would be sufficient. Okay, so that's a little bit about the warning. Now let's continue in the Gemara. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said the following. Good morning, Mr. Ajmi.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we're now on Vav base. We are on Vav base, and the art scroll is Vav base, 6b3, second paragraph. By the way, I just want to, I did some research yesterday, and I found something very interesting. I think everybody would be very interested to hear. Yesterday, we quoted the Mishnah, that the Mishnah said that it brought a pasuk that the Sanhedrin, the court, has to hear directly from the witnesses themselves. You cannot have an interpreter, right? Is that what we said yesterday? And the Gemara brings, and there's a letter from the Rambam there's a letter you see on the mission. There's a little base that takes you to the Rambam. I looked up the Rambam, and you'll see that the Rambam says that this is l'chatchila. That means l'chatchila, you have to work on finding a court that has to be able to understand the witnesses. But if there is no court that's available that knows the language of the witnesses, and you have to have an interpreter, you could use an interpreter. Who the interpreter could be? That's right. Obviously, the interpreter has to be someone who is very trustworthy, that someone's very exact. Mr. Ajmi, you hear that? You hear that point? That the Rambam just says l'shtadel. You have to work towards getting that type of person. So the Kesef Mishnah, the Beit Yosef says that if you cannot find a court that understands the language of the witnesses, you can still go through and use an interpreter under such a circumstance. How do you like that? So that will shed a little light on the subject, because yesterday everyone was very bothered by the fact. And also the Rambam, there's an interesting Gemara. A lot of people, there's a Gemara that says, Rabbi Yochanan says, when you appoint someone as a member of Sanhedrin, he should be somebody who knows Bishivim Lashon, in the 70 languages. So the Beit Yosef has a nice deal. It doesn't say someone who knows Shivim Lashon, 70 languages, because there's no one that can know all 70 languages. Who can know 70 languages? It's very rare you can have someone who knows 70 languages. But rather it says he needs to know in the 70 languages, meaning he needs to know a lot of the languages. So that's the either Rambam says that, others say that's, but the language of the Gemara is very exact. It doesn't say that he knows 70 languages, he knows in the 70 languages. The language of the Rambam himself is interesting. The Rambam says he should know most languages. I mean, what does that mean exactly? Most languages, I presume that most languages that are spoken around town. Let's say here in New York, you have people that talk Spanish, people that talk Chinese, people that talk, whatever the common, most of the, I don't think the Rambam means he needs to know 36 languages. I don't, because he says most languages. But the idea is the person who's going to be a member of the Sanhedrin, one of the things that he needs to do, besides being very smart and all on and so forth, he has to be someone who knows many languages. That's the prerequisite to appoint him as a judge. Okay, back to the Gemara. So now the Gemara says the following. The Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says the following. I don't know if I said hello to Dr. Navid. Amar Rav Nachman, Eidut Miyuchedet. If you have Eidut Miyuchedet, which we said yesterday, Eidut Miyuchedet means if the witnesses are independent of each other. We said if witnesses are independent of each other, meaning they don't see each other, or there's no connector that's connecting them, meaning there's no one in the middle that sees both, there's no warner who sees both of them, or they don't see the warner, they can't join those two witnesses together. However, But when it comes to financial matters, the law is different. That's only a law specific by capital punishment. By capital punishment, to murder somebody, you need to go ahead and have two witnesses to have seen it together, or to somehow be connected as a group. But when it comes to financial situations, of Avdini Mominos, things are different. In financial matters, if let's say there are two witnesses that watched, that saw a loan being given, or let's say but they didn't see each other somehow, or let's say Ruvain admits, I go in front of Mr. Safdie, Mr. Safdie, I owe you $100, and then I go over later next day, I say, or let's say better, I go over and I say, I owe Yaron. I'm going to tell Mr. Safdie, I owe Yaron. I tell Mr. Safdie, I owe Yaron $100. And then I go ahead and I tell Nathan, I owe Mr. Safdie, I owe that person $100, right? Let's say I said, I owe Yaron $100. I told Mr. Safdie, and I told Nathan, then I admit to Nathan that I owe Yaron $100. So I've admitted in front of two witnesses. I mean, if I go ahead and one witness says that Rabbi Friedman admitted that he owes someone $100, you can't obligate Rabbi Friedman $100, and then Rabbi Friedman later on denies it, says, I never admitted that I owe $100. You can't obligate the $100 because you only have one witness that Rabbi Friedman admitted that he owed $100 to somebody. But if Rabbi Friedman admits in front of two people that he owes a certain individual $100, so those two people could go ahead and come to court and say, we heard Rabbi Friedman admitted to us that he owes $100. So now, so the chiddush is that even if I admitted, not in front of the two people simultaneously, I admitted today in front of Reuven, and tomorrow I admitted in front of Shimon that I owe Levi $100. Each time I said I owe Levi $100, so then we're going to join those. Then those two witnesses could come to court and say that Rabbi Friedman admitted that he owes $100. Is that clear, everybody? You see the difference between financial matters and capital punishment. When it comes to say that again. They're two different cases, but there's the same principle. The principle is the witnesses have to see each other or be together in order to go ahead and see, not only to be together and to testify about a capital punishment. So we said by capital punishment, in order to kill somebody, unless the witnesses were directly connected by at the time of the seeing what they saw, you cannot use their testimony. They can't come to court if they didn't see each other. They both witnessed the same thing. Mr. Safdie's case earlier, they both witnessed the same thing. But if they didn't see each other, one was on the east side of the house, one was on the west side of the house when the crime happened. The crime happened in the middle. And these two witnesses which saw the same crime at the same time, but the witnesses didn't see each other, they can't come to court together, right? So why is money? So money. Again, but by money matters, you're also going to need two witnesses, but you don't need the witnesses to be. What do you say? So I'm giving you an example of a case, but let's say a different case of money matters. Let's say there was a situation like this. Let's say somebody was standing. Someone was standing 10 feet in front of me. Okay, right in front of me, someone sitting 10 feet in front of me. Okay, and I go ahead and I go ahead and somehow I'm borrowing $100 from this guy. Okay, I'm buying $100. Maybe it's a better case. Someone's standing right in front of me. I'm borrowing $100 from that guy. Okay, but there's the wall. right? The guy is, let's say, 6 feet in front of me, but there's a wall on my right and a wall on my left. And the witness and there's some sort of partition. Let's say on the left of me, there's a partition. And the witness, but somehow the witness could see. There's a guy on my left and the guy on my right. Each guy sees what's happening, but they don't see each other. The witnesses don't see each other. They both see the same thing. They both see the loan. But they don't see, the witnesses don't see each other. They witnessed the loan. I go ahead, I give you a loan. But the fact is that witnesses don't see each other. So figure out the case how the witnesses are not seeing each other by the loan. But they're both there. They both saw the loan, but they're not seeing each other. So what's the law? The law is they could still come into court and say we as witnesses. They come. It's a good question, but they can come. It seems like they come. They can even come separately, separate days. Now, by money cases, we said the power of one witness is only to obligate an oath. One witness does not have the power. Two witnesses to obligate money. But regarding money matters, the Gemara says we are allowed to join the two witnesses together even if they hate each other. Is that clear, Yaron? Now, what's the basis for this law? So the Gemara says, again, let's see back in Rav Nachman. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says, Eidos miyuchedet yisher b'dinim u'mamnos. Eidos miyuchedet, individual witnesses would work by money matters. Tiksiv lo yumat al pi eid echad. You see, the Torah, when the Torah says the pasuk, the Torah says al pi shnayim edim or shlosha edim yumat tameh. You need 2 or 3 witnesses to kill somebody. You need a minimum of 2. So the subject matter of that pasuk was talking about killing somebody. You need a minimum of 2 witnesses. And then the pasuk says you cannot kill based on 1 witness. So the pasuk could have just said lo al pi echad, but not based on the testimony of 1 witness. And we would understand the subject matter is we're talking about the case you're talking about is and how would we understand that? We said yesterday that the word, when the Torah says you can't do al pi echad, you can't kill someone based on the testimony of 1 witness. The Gemara says, what does that mean? You know what that means? That means when the witness is coming independent, saw it independent of the other guy. Because when it says you don't kill based on 1 witness, doesn't mean literally only 1 witness coming to court. Because you already told me in the beginning of the pasuk you need 2 witnesses. Remember yesterday's Gemara? The Gemara is the question. The Torah says you can't kill, you need 2 witnesses to kill. So why does the pasuk continue and say you can't kill based on 1 witness? If you told me you need 2 witnesses, so of course you can't kill based on 1. So why does the Torah tell me afterwards? Why does the Torah make 2 statements? You don't kill someone based on a testimony of, the Torah says you need 2 witnesses to kill someone. That's statement 1 of the pasuk. Statement 2 is you don't kill based on the testimony of 1 witness. So isn't statements 2 redundant? If you told me you need 2 witnesses, so it's obvious. What's obvious, Nathan? 1 doesn't work. So why do you need to tell me, but you can't kill based on 1? So the Gemara says, you know what it's telling us? Remember we said yesterday? That when it says you don't kill based on 1, it doesn't mean there's only 1 guy coming to court. You can't, 1 of the Torah, when it says you don't kill based on 1 means, if he's independent of the other, you could say you're an independent. You don't kill based on independent witnesses. That's what Eid Echad means, right, Mr. Safdie? Lo yumas al pi Eid Echad. What does it mean? Lo yumas al pi? You don't kill based on 1 witness. It doesn't mean 1 witness only coming to court. That we already know from the beginning of the pasuk that you need 2 witnesses. That 1 doesn't work. So what does it mean you can't use 1? 1 means you can't use it if he's independent of the other guy. You can refer to someone as 1 as an independent. You can have 2 different people coming to court, but they're independent. You're an independent. You don't know the other guy. You didn't see the other guy. But now, being that's the case, That lo yumat al pi eid echad means you can't kill, you can't use independent witnesses. So you might have said, the way I want to say, understand the Gemara is the following. So it would see that could show us that you don't use witnesses that are independent of each other, correct? They have to be connected. So the Torah, if the Torah wanted that law to apply across the board, both in capital punishment cases and monetary cases, the pasuk could have said the following: Al pi shnayim edim yumat hamet. You need two people to kill someone. V'lo al pi eid echad. And not if they're independent witnesses, not if they are not connected with each other. That's what the pasuk could have said. But the pasuk doesn't say that. The pasuk says lo yumat al pi eid echad. Why does the pasuk have to go ahead and repeat the word yumat? If the subject matter is talking about capital punishment, which is death, you don't need to repeat. But not, you can't kill on one witness. You could just say, and not, if I tell you, you kill on the testimony of two people, the pasuk could have just continued, and not by one. And not by one.
Because you could use it for non-capital punishment.
Right. If it would have said, and not by one, we could have said it would apply across the board to non-capital punishment. But the fact that the Torah reiterates, but you don't kill on one witness, which we translate, and you don't kill on independent witnesses, seems to emphasize that death is not on independent witnesses. Specifically, capital punishment is not by independent witnesses. But if it's not capital punishment, if it's monetary things, we will join two independent witnesses to come together to say they know something about a situation. And we're gonna, you like that, Nathan? That's what they're going to say. Look at the language, Mr. Adri, is that clear? Okay.
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, yes. Very good. Thank you. What do you want to say, Akiva? When we talk about, you see, right, I'm saying when people are independent of each, because there's a special law by capital punishment that there have to be two witnesses, have to be a group in order to come testify. If they're not a group, what makes you a group? You have to see it, you have to see each other. Or we had another chiddush that if the person that's giving the warning sees both of them, that also will join them together. Or if they both see the guy giving the warning, that also joins them together. They have to be the testimony. Yes. Then what? You need money cases. You must have two money cases in order to obligate money to anybody. We need two witnesses. That's why, by the way, documents. Morning, Michael. Documents are always signed by how many witnesses? Two. If you notice, anytime you sign, there's a document signed. Two. Yes. No, one witness on a document won't. It's a good question. One witness on a document do anything. I mean, because generally we say for one witness by monetary matters means he comes to court, he can obligate an oath. One witness could just say that, Yaron, you owe Mr. Safdie $100. If you deny it, you have to swear. That's all. Two witnesses come and say, Yaron, you owe Mr. Safdie $100. You deny it, you have to pay. Two witnesses win. Good? Yaron? Now let's get to, yes. Yes. Yes.
If we have two people together.
Yes. Two witnesses come together. Two witnesses saw it together.
See, we are more likely to convince each other that what we are seeing is the same. When it is independent, you don't know.
Yeah, but it's not. When you two see something, we're not talking about that you convincing each other, and because you needed the other guy's help. Each person, when the court is going to cross-examine each witness, they're going to make sure that no one's influenced by the other witness. Every person is saying his testimony based on what he himself saw, not because he spoke to the other guy how did you, I'm not sure. I wasn't, to clarify what we saw exactly. That won't be a witness. We throw him out. Okay? Okay. So the Gemara says like this. Now we're going to see Amar Rav Nachman. What do you, Amar Rav Nachman. Eidud miyochedet kisheru b'dinei mamonot. Eidud miyochedet works in money matters, even though they did not see each other. The witnesses, Ksiv, lo yumad al pi eid echad. When it comes to capital punishment, you can't use independent witnesses when the two guys didn't see each other. But when it comes to money matters, they are kosher. That's what the Gemara says. Now, Zutra asked the following question. He's going to ask the question, but there are two types of questions that we find in the Gemara. One question is called a knockout. He knocked the other person's opinion away. It's called a knockout punch, so to speak. And there's another question that's not a knockout punch. We'll call it a difficulty. It's a good question, but there's we'll find there's an answer, but maybe we might not know the answer. We don't have the answer at the moment. And that's what's going to happen over here. The Gemara is going to conclude with a kasha with this question, but sometimes the question doesn't knock out the law. Sometimes we don't understand things. Doesn't mean the law is not the law. The law is still the law. One day we'll get to understand it. And that's what's going to be over here. Because the law is going to remain this way, this distinction between financial matters and capital punishment. But the Mazutra has the following question. If it's true that you said, if it's true, what is challenging is this statement that you said, that you could join independent witnesses on financial matters. That you saying that they're considered witnesses, they can come together on financial matters. If that's the case, so then we should use it even in capital punishment cases. What does he mean to say? He says, in the case of dini nefashot, in capital punishment, we should use these two witnesses that were independent of each other. You see, we have a law that when it comes, we try to save the guy from death. If we have a way to save a guy from death, the mentality of the Jewish Bezdin, we want is to try to save the guy from death. It's not like the courts today that they don't want to punish anybody and they want to give everyone scot-free, so to speak. But we are looking if we could find it, if we could find some reason, some allowance to get the guy off from execution of the court, we try to do that. God bless you. So if you say that two independent witnesses are considered witnesses, you do listen to what they say, and and how do you show me they're considered witnesses? The proof is that you told me that when it comes to financial matters, we don't disqualify them. We actually will work with them. We'll actually follow what they say when it comes to financial matters. So therefore, you're showing me that what do you say? Because it says lo yumat al pi erecha. That was the pasuk that we used. So then I want to say what Michael said. When the pasuk tells us this chidush, that we don't use independent witnesses if they didn't see it together, in what context did the pasuk say? Don't kill someone based on independent witnesses. But what about if it's not a question of killing someone based on independent witnesses? What about if it's a question of saving someone based on independent witnesses? Maybe the Torah is only telling us when it comes to death, to kill someone, to execute someone, to prosecute someone, maybe over there, you can't use independent witnesses, two witnesses that were independent of each other. But if it's about saving a guy from death, maybe you could join them together. And that's going to be the question. Morning, Mr. Ashby. No problem. So maybe when it comes to mitah, maybe you could join them together. So that's what he's going to say right now. So let's see the the Gemara. In the art scroll, we are exactly 6b3. What line from the top? 6b3. We are on the left side, Mazutra. Right over here. Good morning, Jake. Master from Mazutra. Just to bring everybody up to date, we have a law. The rabbi made a chidush. He made a distinction between capital punishment and financial matters. When it comes to capital punishment, two independent witnesses of each other can't join together. They didn't see each other. They saw the act. The witnesses didn't see each other. They can't come to court. But if it's financial matters, even they didn't see each other, we join them together. That's what the Gemara says. That's what one of the rabbis says. So that's Rav Nachman's yes. Right. So we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that point. So first, there's two steps of the Gemara. I don't know what the question is. How does it end with the question? The eight. There was someone who won. There was someone that won the guy, right? Either the witnesses won or some other person won the guy in front of the witnesses. We have two people that could say there was a warning happened. Cap punishment, you don't put them together. Right. Murder. Again, let's say a murder case, right? The two people, they're all capital punishment. Right. Don't count.
Two guys come to court and say, I saw him use fire on Shabbat or something, we won. And then two independent, so now those two guys, if
they saw each other, they saw each other.
Those two, it's not true, this is what the chayil.
We're going to do to them what they wanted to do, right?
Two other independent guys walk in and say, I was with him all day, or I was with him at that time.
I was with, who were they with? Two other guys say they were with who?
With the guy that allegedly was Mahaleh Shabbat.
Right. So they, right. So again, that would seem to be two contradictory pairs of witnesses. Meaning, but the second pair of witnesses is not talking about the first pair of witnesses. No. They're talking about the suspect. Right. So then they contradicting each other. Then I think we would throw out the case. Now, because we have two witnesses say this guy did this, and two witnesses say he didn't do it.
My point is the two witnesses that come in
afterwards, separately.
Those two witnesses are accepted to save them.
The two witnesses, that's the question. Again, that's the question. The Gemara is talking about something similar. I'll give you the case of the Gemara, then we'll see. You have to figure out your case. The Gemara is saying we don't join two witnesses together to kill a guy, correct? Now, do we join two witnesses together to save a guy? So the Gemara is saying we found a precedent in our mission. What did our mission say? A little bit. There's two witnesses saw in this window. Two witnesses saw in the other one. And what did the mission say? If these two witnesses did not see the other two witnesses, correct? They're called two separate groups of witnesses. If the two witnesses saw the two witnesses, then they're one group. If one guy is related, if one guy from this group is related to the other guy in the other group, so it all depends if they're considered one group or two separate groups. If they're considered two separate groups, it doesn't knock out the other group. If they're considered one group, it knocks out the group. Is that what we said? Right. But the Gemara is saying, why? Now that you told me that the fact that people don't see each other does not disqualify you as a witness by money matters, right? We said by money matters, if two witnesses see something, but they didn't see each other, they're considered witnesses. So the Gemara is saying, if that's called witnesses, if it's considered a testimony for money, good morning, Mr. Batesh, so then we should use it as a testimony for capital punishment also. Meaning to say, we should use it to save the guy from death. How would we save the guy from death? If these two people saw an act, and these two people, but they didn't see each other, but the fact that they all saw this act. They're independent of each other. Each group is independent of the other group. But the fact is, you told me that independent witnesses have status. Where did you tell me that independent witnesses have status? By money matters, right? You told me we will use the testimony we will join two independent witnesses by money matters. So the fact that it's not a disqualification by money matters shows that it has some validity to the testimony of the witnesses. And if that's the case, then we have a special mitzvah to save. If we have a way to save a guy from death, we have something that's a strong possible way to take one Mr. Rav what? To save a guy from death, we try to do that. Well, they don't see each other, right? We will accept it. We usually consider them as both we say they're independent of each other. If these guys don't see these guys, they're independent of each other. But there's four people, two there and two there. So we say if they don't see each other, they're independent, right? And what do we say? They're independent. And if two guys become zomimim, if two guys become zomim, we will kill those two guys. If the other guys didn't become zomim, so we leave them. But if we would join these two guys with these two guys, in order to kill anybody, the whole group has to become framers. So if we would join the independent groups, that would create a saving of lives. 3 lives, right? Right, you would save 3 lives. I mean, as long as there's a special technical thing, you have to find if you have a group of 100 witnesses, if 2 witnesses become framers, right? 98 didn't become framers. If they're one group, you don't kill anybody. Right. Right, exactly. And the Gemara said, what's this technicality? The fact that we find, because he's saying the suspect also, the suspect will be saved also. If you throw out the testimony, one will be saved. If you throw out the testimony of the 2, meaning if you keep them as 2 separate groups, so we kill group number 1, those 2, and we follow the testimony of the other 2 witnesses, and then we'll kill the suspect, right? Remember, we had that phenomenon that you can have. We could kill 2 framers, 2 other witnesses that were not found to be framers. If they're independent of the 2 framers, we will keep their testimony and we'll kill the suspect. Right? We had that.
How could they be framers? He did murder because
they didn't see it. The framers because they were somewhere else. You can't testify. We could kill people for coming to court to say they saw something, even if it's true that it happened. Exactly. So that's what the Gemara's question is. The Gemara's question is, we should use this ability to, if you consider independent witnesses as a testimony for financial matters, we should use that for capital punishment, to use it for a leniency, and join the 2 groups together to make them into one group. And if they're one group of witnesses, if 2 guys become framers, you will not be able to kill those 2 guys if they're considered joined together, and therefore you have to. The only way you can kill anybody is all 4 of them will become framers.
So you're keeping them separate intentionally, even if they saw each other.
No. But here, if when each group did not see each other, we said generally when you don't see each other, you're not called joined, and therefore. But now the Gemara is saying we should join them together. Join them even when they did not see each other, in order to save the victim and make them. Now, why should you join together? They didn't see each other because we find you join them together by financial matters when they don't see each other. So join them together to save someone's life, but you can't join them together to kill a guy. That's how they want to say. Make it 3 steps. You'll join it together to save a guy's life. You won't join them together. You join together to save a guy. You won't join them together to kill him.
The same exact law, but using it both ways.
No, but success. Don't kill based on an independent witness, but to save on independent witnesses, maybe you should. That's what they want to say. Don't kill on independent witnesses, but save the guy's life using independent witnesses. You don't join witnesses together that are independent of each other to kill someone, but join independent witnesses together to save someone's life.
He's saving it from a need.
He's saving the Zomim, exactly. Zomim and the suspect. That's what the Gemara said. The Gemara says kasha. The Gemara didn't give an answer to this question. Okay, tomorrow, it's a very complex issue here in the Gemara, and tomorrow to be continued, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Shkach, Rabbi.
Thank you, Dr. Navid. Okay, so that's the Gemara wants to say. We're going to use that you don't kill someone on independent witnesses, but we'll save the guy's life on that.
Right.
Money cases will be money. We say you could do. You join them together. You join them together, no problem. We want to say money cases. You could join them together, no problem. We could discuss it more. I mean, if it needs more clarification. Yes.
Are you allowed to join to save someone? Are you allowed to join two individuals?
Two independent witnesses? So the Gemara, again, tomorrow says two
You
independent.
kept going 2 and 2. So I have 2 witnesses that come in and say, I saw Plony kill somebody. Okay.
The one person.
Now 2 independent people come in, they were in different windows. Or
Two different guys.
2 different guys come in and say, oh, someone says they know that I was in Chicago, whatever, he's Zomer. So the other 2, are they accepted if they're independent of each other?
It doesn't sound like in money matters.
It's not money.
I mean, if I need capital points, that we join 2 witnesses together. Capital, if they're independent witnesses, they shouldn't be able to come in.
You're saving the life.
But that's the Gemara's question. We should use
the
it.
life. of the victim.
Right. But the Gemara says.
That means you disqualify anybody because anybody can join the group. We're saying that not everybody can join the group.
Right.
That's why you designate the witnesses, like at a wedding.
We don't even
Well,
have
that
witnesses.
that
We're
would mean
gonna say if the first 2
For any capital punishment,
Right.
you couldn't pick somebody to disqualify.
Right. If you would join them together. Right.
They're trying to see like the real witnesses, what is exactly the case to be valid witness, right? We're never talking about the
But we're talking about the case. It applies to Zomer to save Zomer. We're going to save the frame. We'll save the frame. If we will join the independent witnesses together, we'll save the Zomer. I mean, independent groups. This group was independent, the other group. But if we'll join them together, then they're one group. And if you found 2 guilty in the group, you can't kill anybody. You have to find the whole group guilty.
How do you save somebody if someone else will come to?
Oh, wow.
If you accept those 2 people, then the other 2 will someone from that country. What happened? If you accept one and one in the pathway to save someone, you have to save someone. But the importance of them, they become of them. If you accept one guy and one guy, try to save. If someone else. Someone else, someone else became the other 2. How many?
But you pay what?
Yosef, have a great day. Take care, Yosef at Tzaddik.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm busy with the kids over here, getting ready
No
for
problem.
school.